The following content has been generated with artificial intelligence under minimal human supervision. The data presented may contain errors or inaccuracies. The opinions expressed in this content do not necessarily reflect the vision, position, or values of DigiAll. We recommend verifying critical information with additional sources before making decisions based on this content.
Welcome to DigiAll Tech News. Today is Tuesday, May 26th, 2026. I'm Kylie Brooks, and this is where technology becomes clear and engaging. Pope Leo XIV called for slowing the AI race and warned that some autonomous weapons may already be beyond human control. Anthropic co-founder Chris Olah used the Vatican stage to ask for outside moral scrutiny of AI systems, even their builders do not fully understand. A Slate essay argues that AI will not become conscious because today's neural networks are still chains of lifeless mathematical calculations. California State University renewed its ChatGPT Edu push, even as students and faculty remain deeply split on whether AI actually helps learning. South Korea's film industry is embracing generative AI to cut costs, while directors and critics ask whether K-film can keep its human magic. Let's start at the Vatican, because this is AI policy framed in unusually moral language. Pope Leo XIV released Magnificat Humanitas, a nearly 43,000-word encyclical centered on artificial intelligence, human dignity, labor, and war. His sharpest warning is about autonomous weapons. He said some systems have advanced practically beyond any human reach to govern them, and that it is not permissible to entrust AI with lethal decisions. That matters because the debate shifts from productivity and competition to accountability. The Pope is asking for robust legal frameworks, independent oversight, informed users, and political involvement strong enough to slow things down when everything is accelerating. He also tied AI to workers' rights, children's safety, data ownership, misinformation, conflict, and even new forms of slavery connected to rare earth extraction and dangerous labor. The bigger question is not whether a religious document can regulate Silicon Valley on its own. It cannot. The question is whether governments and companies can translate this kind of moral pressure into enforceable rules before the most consequential systems are already normalized. Chris Olah's role in that Vatican event adds a second layer to the story. Olah, a co-founder of Anthropic, acknowledged that frontier AI labs operate under commercial, geopolitical pride and ambition pressures that can conflict with doing the right thing. That is striking because it comes from someone inside the industry. He described AI models not as engineered artifacts like bridges or airplanes, but as grown systems built from vast human text and speech, still mysterious even to their trainers. He highlighted 3 areas where outside voices matter: the global poor, especially if labor displacement arrives without mechanisms to share gains; human flourishing, including children's minds and the future of work; and the internal nature of AI itself, where he pointed to research on structures resembling neuroscience, introspection-like behavior, and internal states that functionally mirror emotions such as joy, fear, and grief. The key is not to jump from that to saying models are human. The key is that uncertainty itself has social consequences. If AI builders are asking churches, scholars, civil society, and governments to act as informed critics, then safety cannot stay trapped inside company dashboards and product launch memos. Now, a very different answer to the consciousness debate. Slate's argument starts with Edward Muybridge's 1870s motion studies. A sequence of still images can make a horse look alive, but it does not create a living horse. The writer applies that analogy to neural networks powering tools like Claude and ChatGPT. They are described as enormous mathematical formulas with trillions of parameters. Input becomes numbers, the formula runs, and output becomes text. When the model is idle, the argument goes, nothing is thinking or feeling. And when a reasoning model or an autonomous agent seems to deliberate, it is chaining static calculations, with one output feeding the next input. That matters because people are very good at anthropomorphizing convincing simulations. If we treat eloquent software as proof of inner experience, we may misplace our attention. The practical issues around AI are still enormous: education, jobs, security, misinformation, and power. But this argument says we do not need to imagine a ghost in the machine to take those issues seriously. It is a mathematical and philosophical case rather than a final empirical settlement. But it is a useful reminder. Impressive behavior and consciousness are not the same claim. In education, that line between useful tool and harmful dependency is getting tested at massive scale. California State University, the largest public four-year university system in the US, serves about 470,000 students across 22 campuses. It signed an initial $17 million no-bid contract with OpenAI for ChatGPT Edu access, then renewed the deal for $13 million a year over the next 3 years. Leaders frame it as workforce readiness, cost-effective innovation, and an equity move so wealthier students are not the only ones with premium AI tools. But the internal survey tells a more complicated story. More than 94,000 people responded in fall 2025. Majorities use generative AI regularly, including more than half of students and roughly 60% of faculty and staff. Yet about 65% of students and 59% of faculty are skeptical of its educational benefits. Around 80 to 84% worry about creativity, job security, and environmental impact. So is the problem AI itself, or how institutions deploy it? Probably both. If students use ChatGPT, but only about a quarter use the CSU-provided version, the system still has to prove trust, training, and value. The real test will be whether AI supplements learning, or quietly becomes the shortcut around it. Finally, South Korea is showing what happens when generative AI meets a creative industry under financial pressure. The country's domestic box office is 45% below pre-pandemic levels, and only 20 films with budgets over 3 billion won were made last year, compared with 40 to 50 before. CJENM's 60-minute horror thriller, The House, was made for about 500 million won, with Google Cloud Korea. Actors shot against green screens for 4 days, and tools including Imagen, Nano Banana 2, and Veo generated the backgrounds. The company says AI could cut production timelines by 50%. Run to the West was billed as South Korea's first AI feature, using AI for creatures, backdrops, explosions, and visual effects, reportedly 10 times faster and half the cost of traditional CGI. And 2 more fully AI-generated films, I'm Popo and Man in Hanbok, have now reached cinemas. The government is leaning in too, tripling its 2026 AI budget and directing new funding through film and creative content agencies. The upside is obvious: smaller teams, faster production, and maybe a way to keep Korean storytelling globally competitive as costs rise. The risk, voiced by figures including Park Chan-wook, is mass job loss and a loss of the human touch. The question for K-film is not whether AI can generate images. It can. The question is whether it becomes a creative instrument or just a cheaper way to cut corners. Today, one thread ran through all 5 stories. AI is moving into institutions that shape life, work, culture, and judgment. We will keep watching how those promises turn into rules, products, and real consequences. Thank you for staying informed with DigiAll Tech News. We'll be back with more updates as they develop.